Do you want the good news or the bad news? Well, I'm a cheery guy, so let's start with the good news. Over the past 48 hours, the House Oversight Committee, that's the one investigating Joe Biden and his family and their alleged crimes and misdemeanors, nearly went into meltdown over evidence from a number of witnesses, including former Biden business partner Tony Bobulinski, detailing the various complicated ways Joe and Hunter were in business together, selling, it would appear, access to companies from China and other great friends of freedom of the world. And, well, now the bad news, at least bad news as far as I see it. Despite the mountain of testimony and evidence that was revealed, including bank checks, suspicious activity reports, emails, and confirmation from Bobulinski that Joe Biden was, in fact, the guy who Hunter was referring to when he talked about 10% for the big guy, Joe Biden is likely to skate and not be held to account for any of that. Because the American judicial system and the media that works hand in hand with it are more interested in trying to bankrupt Donald Trump for the crime of taking out loans and paying them back. Anyway, let's have a look at what happened in these hearings anyway, shall we? Have a listen to this. It's a little bit of Tony Bobulinski's opening statement.
We keep hearing from certain corners that our democracy is at risk and democracy is on the ballot in 24. Yet the same people preaching this mantra know better. They continue to lie directly to the American people without hesitation and remorse. I want to be crystal clear. From my direct personal experience and what I've subsequently come to learn, it is clear to me that Joe Biden was the brand being sold by the Biden family. His family's foreign influence peddling operation from China to Ukraine and elsewhere sold out to foreign actors who are seeking to gain influence and access to Joe Biden and the United States government.
And here's Jim Jordan quizzing Bobulinski about who the big guy was.
Mr. Bobulinski, who's the big guy? Joe Biden. Are you sure about that? Because when
Jordan, Joe Biden.
Sure? You're sure?
I'm 1,000% sure.
Because when Hunter Biden did his deposition under oath, he said, I don't know who it is, even though he was copied on an email that said H will hold 10% for the big guy. You sure it's the big guy is Joe Biden?
1,000%. And there's other text messages that back that up, that the brave whistleblowers, Shapley and Ziegler, have produced, not from my phones, not from my BlackBerry that I took screenshots from. They took them from subpoenas directly from Apple's iCloud that back up the fact that Hunter knew the big guy was Joe Biden.
The big guy is the brand. The big guy is the lift. The big guy is the one who showed up at golf outings, who took phone calls and meetings and lunches and dinners with Hunter Biden and his business associates. Is that right?
Correct.
And there was a ton of evidence submitted, including this, part of a much longer brief of evidence from Congressman Byron Donalds documenting a transfer of $5 million from China into a Biden bank account.
On August 8th, 4 days later, $5 million is then transferred from the Northern International Capital account of $5 million to Hudson West III. Hudson West III is a bank account controlled by Hunter Biden and Mr. Gong Wang, a.k.a. Kevin Dong, who was a CEFC associate. That money comes from the Northern International Capital bank account that is tied to the CCP. Mr. Chairman, I want to submit for the record the bank statement demonstrating that transfer.
And there was also this amazing meltdown from AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who demanded that Bobulinski name a crime that Biden had committed. And when Bobulinski suggested the infamous RICO racketeering statutes, well, she said, that's not a crime.
Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is the crime, sir?
You
specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption statutes.
Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is the
It's a category of crimes that you're then charged.
You have charges.
A long 100.
You have charges. Sir, please
name the exact statute under RICO.
Yes.
Did you hear that? It's a category of crime. I'll tell you what, I'm going to tell the next cop who pulls me over that speeding is just a category of crime. Seriously. Oh, and for the record, AOC, RICO is a federal law codified at 18 U.S. Code Chapter 96, Sections 1961 to 68. Look it up. But none of any of this stuff that came out really, though, as damning as it is a secret. We know this. It has been hiding in plain sight. And in the past, the media has been willing to report on it cautiously. Here's a sample.
President Biden met with at least 14 of Hunter's business associates while he was vice president.
Then Vice President Joe Biden had dinner with his son Hunter, along with Hunter's business associates from Ukraine, Russia, and Kazakhstan. And the day after the dinner, a Burisma executive sent a note to Hunter, quoting, "Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to D.C. and giving an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together."
Hunter's lucrative business dealings often included giving as much as 50% of his earnings to his dad.
The text read, quote, "I hope you all can do what I did and pay for everything for this entire family for 30 years. It's really hard, but don't worry. Unlike Pop, I won't make you give me half your salary."
His son, Hunter, joining the then vice president on the official visit to Beijing. Unknown to the press back then, Hunter Biden was forming a Chinese private equity fund, planning to raise money, including from Chinese investors. 10 days after the Biden's trip, Shanghai authorities issued the fund's business license.
That was then, but now the stakes are too high. Donald Trump's ahead in the polls, and after surviving his State of the Union, Joe Biden doesn't look to be going anywhere. So they can't have anything like racketeering or subversion of U.S. policy or foreign governments making the news. Remember that time that then Vice President got the Ukrainians to fire the prosecutor who was looking into his son's oil and gas company, Burisma? They can't let that sort of thing get in the way of defeating Trump, who is now struggling to pay the $500 million bond imposed on him by New York Attorney General after New York Attorney General decided to torch the former president on utterly bizarre interpretations of fraud statutes that, again, have seen Trump threatened with the loss of his New York property empire because he, and this is really bad, folks, took out loans and paid them back. Now, remember, in that trial, the banks even testified in his defense, but that didn't matter. The key now for everybody is stop Trump, get Trump by any means necessary. So you look at those two things, and there's two things to say about it. One, it's a bizarre effort because it seems like the more Trump's enemies pursue him through kangaroo court maneuvers, the more his popularity goes up among ordinary Americans whose basic sense of fairness has been offended. But here's the other point, and I think this is the bigger and more important one. You do not have to love Trump. You can hate him, I don't care. And you don't have to loathe Biden either to know that when you look at these two cases and these two scenarios, put them together, and it is no way to run a country or to elect its leader. I've said it before here on this program, and I'll say it again. This is downright banana republic territory that America is sailing into right now.